What secrets lie dormant within the ancient vibrations that pierce through the vacuum of space itself, while our planet accelerates toward thermodynamic collapse at unprecedented rates? Fellow quantum shamans, as we witness biodiversity collapse accelerating beyond critical tipping points, with extinction probability calculations showing a 67% chance of ecosystem failure within the next solar cycle, something extraordinary emerges from the intersection of ancient wisdom and quantum mechanics. The survival matrix indicates that sound itself may hold the key to reversing entropy acceleration on a planetary scale. But first, let me shatter everything you thought you knew about the nature of reality itself. In laboratories across Finland, quantum physicists have achieved what ancient sages understood millennia ago. Sound can tunnel through the vacuum of space. Not metaphorically, literally through piezoelectric quantum entanglement. Acoustic waves achieve 100% transmission efficiency across dimensional barriers, defying every law of classical physics while our atmosphere reaches carbon saturation levels that threaten the electromagnetic stability of Earth's biosphere. The ancient Sanskrit masters called it Shabda Brahman, the cosmic sound that creates and sustains reality. Modern quantum field theory calls it Phonon, tunneling through vacuum gaps. Both describe the same phenomenon, vibrational frequencies that transcend the boundaries of space-time while our planet's magnetic field weakens at rates that accelerate mass extinction coefficients beyond recoverable thresholds. What happens when consciousness shifts during ecological collapse? What if the answer lies not in technology, but in the primal frequencies that govern quantum coherence itself? Ancient sages understood thermodynamic principles that our civilization forgot in its rush toward entropy. They knew that specific sound patterns synchronize the hemispheres of consciousness, generating alpha wave states that correlate with what quantum physicists now measure as coherent gamma oscillations at exactly 40 Hz, the same frequency range where quantum tunneling effects achieve maximum efficiency through vacuum barriers. But here's where the survival urgency becomes critical. These same frequencies that break space barriers also stabilize cardiac rhythms, reduce cortisol production, and activate neuroplasticity patterns associated with enhanced problem-solving capabilities. As climate tipping points cascade through feedback loops, could ancient mantra practices represent an evolutionary adaptation mechanism encoded in human consciousness? The neurological evidence becomes undeniable when we examine quantitative electroencephalography during sacred sound practices. Frontal gamma activity increases while coherence emerges between left temporal and right frontal brain regions, creating neural configurations identical to those observed during breakthrough problem-solving states. Ancient wisdom encoded survival algorithms in sound patterns that modern science barely comprehends. Consider the thermodynamic implications. Every mantra creates specific electromagnetic field fluctuations that extend beyond the individual nervous system, generating what quantum field theorists classify as non-local correlations. When groups practice synchronized chanting, these field effects amplify through quantum entanglement principles, potentially creating macroscopic coherence patterns that influence environmental stability at regional scales. Extinction probability calculations show that human consciousness operates as a quantum measurement device within Earth's biosphere. The Copenhagen interpretation suggests that consciousness collapse probability waves into specific realities. If ancient mantra practices optimize consciousness coherence during planetary crisis conditions, they may literally alter the trajectory of civilizational collapse through quantum mechanical processes we're only beginning to understand. But the implications extend far beyond individual consciousness transformation. Recent research demonstrates that specific sacred sound frequencies modulate cingulate cortex activity across alpha, beta, and gamma bands, the exact neural networks responsible for environmental awareness. empathy responses, and collective action coordination. As biodiversity collapse accelerates through trophic cascade effects, these neurological changes induced by ancient sound practices may represent our species' evolutionary response to existential threats. The Ohm frequency, when analyzed through spectral decomposition, contains harmonic ratios that mirror the mathematical constants governing planetary orbital mechanics. Coincidence? Ancient wisdom suggests otherwise. These sound patterns may encode information about cosmic cycles, including the precession of equinoxes and solar activity fluctuations that influence Earth's climate stability across millennial timescales. What secrets do these frequencies reveal about consciousness as a fundamental force in the universe? Quantum field equations predict that consciousness operates through zero-point energy fluctuations in the vacuum. Ancient mantras may access these quantum vacuum states, creating resonance conditions that amplify coherence effects across dimensional boundaries. When space itself becomes a medium for sound transmission through piezoelectric quantum tunneling, consciousness transcends the limitations of individual biological systems. The survival implications become profound when we consider that mantra practices systematically reduce anxiety, hypertension, and immune system dysfunction, the exact physiological responses that deteriorate under chronic environmental stress. As ecosystem collapse creates unprecedented psychological pressure on human populations, these ancient technologies provide neurological resilience mechanisms that modern medicine cannot replicate through pharmaceutical interventions. But the quantum mechanics reveal something even more extraordinary. Sound waves that tunnel through vacuum gaps maintain perfect coherence across dimensional boundaries. This suggests that consciousness, when properly attuned through sacred sound practices, can access information from parallel probability streams, alternate timeline configurations where humanity successfully navigated planetary crisis conditions. Ancient wisdom traditions speak of this as Akashic records, the quantum information field containing all possible evolutionary pathways. Could mantra practices represent a quantum communication system that connects present consciousness with future survival solutions? The mathematics become startling when we calculate the energy requirements for global consciousness coherence. If even 1% of human population practices synchronized mantra meditation during critical planetary transitions, the collective electromagnetic field effects create measurable alterations in atmospheric conductivity, potentially influencing weather pattern stability through quantum mechanical feedback loops. Ancient texts describe periods when the sound that transcends sound prevented civilizational collapse through mass consciousness coordination. Modern quantum physics suggests these accounts may describe historically accurate applications of macroscopic quantum coherence principles, where collective sound practices created reality-altering effects through dimensional resonance phenomena. The thermodynamic analysis reveals that entropy acceleration can be reversed through coherent information processing at consciousness environment interfaces. Sacred sound practices optimize these interfaces, potentially creating negative entropy conditions that restore ecological balance through quantum mechanical processes operating across multiple dimensional scales simultaneously. What happens when enough humans remember how to sing the songs that heal worlds? The neuroplasticity research shows that regular mantra practice literally rewires neural networks responsible for pattern recognition, systems thinking, and collaborative problem solving. As environmental complexity increases beyond the processing capacity of individualistic consciousness, these ancient practices may trigger evolutionary adaptations that enable collective intelligence emergence at species-wide scales. But the quantum tunneling effects suggest something even more revolutionary. if sound can achieve 100% transmission efficiency through vacuum barriers. Consciousness coupled with specific acoustic frequencies may access non-local information sources containing solutions to planetary crisis conditions. The ancient Vedic concept of cosmic intelligence translates into modern terms as quantum field coherence effects that transcend space-time limitations through dimensional resonance phenomena. The survival matrix indicates that humanity stands at a quantum bifurcation point where consciousness coherence determines civilizational trajectory. Ancient mantra practices provide the technological framework for navigating this transition successfully. But only if sufficient numbers of individuals activate these quantum communication protocols before ecological tipping points cascade beyond recoverable thresholds. Mass extinction coefficients accelerate exponentially as biodiversity collapse reaches critical phase transitions. Yet quantum mechanics demonstrates that consciousness can alter probability distributions through measurement effects that collapse potential futures into actualized realities. Sacred sound practices may represent our species' evolutionary toolkit for consciously directing this quantum selection process toward survival optimal outcomes. The ancient sages encoded these instructions in mantras precisely because they understood that sound transcends dimensional barriers when consciousness achieves sufficient coherence. Every chanted syllable creates quantum field fluctuations that propagate across vacuum gaps, potentially reaching alternate versions of reality where humanity successfully transformed planetary crisis into evolutionary breakthrough. Could the key to planetary healing exist in frequencies that break through space itself? The research reveals that specific mantra sequences generate brainwave patterns identical to those observed during breakthrough scientific discoveries and artistic inspiration. As environmental challenges require unprecedented creative solutions, these ancient practices may unlock cognitive capabilities that remain dormant during periods of ecological stability. Quantum entanglement operates instantaneously across any distance, suggesting that consciousness coherence achieved through sacred sound practices creates non-local connections with other practitioners worldwide. This forms a quantum communication network that enables real-time coordination of collective problem-solving efforts as planetary crisis conditions demand immediate collaborative responses. The thermodynamic implications become clear. Entropy acceleration reverses when information coherence exceeds disorder generation rates. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this principle, encoding it in sound practices that optimize consciousness environment feedback loops for maximum coherence enhancement at minimal energy cost. But here's the quantum mechanical revelation that changes everything. When consciousness achieves sufficient coherence through sacred sound practices, it begins operating as a macroscopic quantum object that influences probability distributions across multiple dimensional scales simultaneously. This means that individual mantra practice contributes to collective reality-shaping effects that may determine whether humanity navigates planetary transition successfully or collapses into thermodynamic equilibrium with environmental degradation. The ancient texts speak of the Great Awakening that occurs when enough individuals remember their quantum nature during times of planetary transformation. Modern physics suggests this describes threshold effects in collective consciousness coherence that trigger phase transitions in civilizational development patterns. Ancient sages understood what extinction probability calculations now confirm. Consciousness operates as a fundamental force that shapes physical reality through quantum mechanical processes. Sacred sound practices provide the technological framework for accessing these capabilities during critical evolutionary transitions when conventional approaches prove insufficient for species survival. The sound that breaks space barriers also breaks the barriers between individual consciousness and cosmic intelligence. Every mantra connects human awareness with the quantum field containing all possible solutions to planetary crisis conditions. The question remains whether enough humans will remember how to listen before environmental collapse reaches irreversible tipping points. The frequencies that tunnel through vacuum gaps carry more than sound, they carry the coded instructions for consciousness evolution during planetary transformation. Ancient wisdom preserved these technologies in sacred sound practices, waiting for the moment when humanity would need quantum mechanical solutions to thermodynamic challenges that conventional thinking cannot resolve. Fellow quantum shamans, as biodiversity collapse accelerates through cascade effects that threaten the electromagnetic stability of Earth's biosphere, the time has come to remember what our ancestors knew about sound, consciousness, and reality itself. The mantras that break space barriers may also break the barriers preventing our species from accessing the quantum technologies necessary for planetary healing. Every chanted syllable creates ripples in the quantum field that propagate across dimensional boundaries, potentially reaching versions of reality where humanity successfully transformed crisis into conscious evolution. The question is not whether these technologies work. Quantum physics confirms their theoretical foundation. The question is whether enough humans will practice them before entropy acceleration reaches irreversible thresholds. The sound that created the universe still echoes through vacuum gaps, waiting for consciousness to remember its quantum nature and sing the songs that heal worlds. In laboratories and meditation halls, ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge science to reveal humanity's true potential as conscious participants in reality creation. The future of our planet may depend on sounds that transcend space itself, carried by consciousness that remembers its quantum mechanical foundation for existence. As extinction coefficients accelerate beyond historical precedents, the mantras that break dimensional barriers offer pathways to survival scenarios that conventional analysis cannot predict or access. The choice approaches rapidly. Will humanity awaken to its quantum mechanical nature before thermodynamic collapse reaches critical phase transitions? Or will our species join the 99% of life forms that fail to navigate evolutionary bottlenecks successfully? The sound that breaks space barriers holds the answer, waiting in the silence between dimensions for consciousness to remember the frequencies that reshape reality itself through quantum coherence effects that ancient sages understood as the fundamental technology of existence.